you said that, or Sweeney said that when he was cried, his father said, "Stop crying, use your words." You're basically looking at crying as shameful when it's a natural occurrence that happens in your body.
Use your words. Say,
wait, my son. We shouldn't shame people for crying. That's why, what is that song by Isley Brother? A man ain't supposed to cry. So even if your father told you, don't cry, use your words, the society even reinforced that don't cry, use your words. And there's nothing wrong with crying. We shouldn't shame men for crying. We shouldn't shame women for crying. Like you said, it is a form of communication. For your body is naturally telling you can't hold it in, because it's a release of pain, and it actually brings you a comfort. So why are men allowed to cry? Why are you?
Actually, let me answer that.
It's not always pain though. It could be happiness too, though.
Y'all love to interrupt. Go ahead.
Gerald, I got it. So the reason why I said that was because I was under the assumption that we were talking about using crying as Mr. LetGo called it, a form of communication. So that's why I said most men, because we were talking about men expressing themselves, a form of communication. Men do cry. We've all cried. They even said men cry about, I think they said 14 times a year or some shit like that. We do cry. But again, like Mr. LetGo said, it's more of a form of release rather than a form of expression or a form of communication. So when men can't communicate through crying because it gets nothing done for us. So that's why we're told to use our words. However, nobody's ever seen a man crying over something, over pain or an anguish or something like that, and told him, man, suck that shit up. No, we allowed them the space to be able to release. However, if you came to me crying because you want something, we're like, hold on, what's going on? That's not how we communicate with one another. And I think it's okay for men to be able to express ourselves and set boundaries amongst ourselves and how we move and how we treat them, how we move.
Okay,
I want to piggyback on that. I want to piggyback on that.
Daryl, real quick. I never even got to even say why I was even asking that, but I let Sweeney go ahead. So you seem to differentiate how a woman cries and a man cries, and you say it's communication. So if a woman comes to you crying as a form of communication, do you not think she has shown any other indicators, tries to come to you as like, hey, babe, I need you to do this? By the time a woman comes to you crying, I believe that she has exerted or, tried all of the stuff. She's tried to talk to you. She sent you paragraph text where you ignored the whole paragraph and you answered the last sentence.
Let me get this one, y'all. I can answer your question. You literally proved my point. Crying is a form of communication. I literally said when a child doesn't get what they want, they're going to start whining. And then when whining doesn't work, they start crying. You literally proved my point. But if a man did the same thing, hold on. But if a man does the same, but if a man does the same thing, it's not going to serve any purpose. I don't understand how you don't get it when you just explained.
I got that. I explained it to you so you can understand. It's not a woman. Hold up. I explained it to you because it's not a woman acting like a child. It's a woman fed up. You ever heard that song by R. Kelly, when a woman's fed up and ain't nothing you could do about it? She's tried it all. So maybe you should try, instead of belittling women, calling them children, try to open up, just like you said, and you let your bro cry and you said, oh, he was crying, I let him cry. Why don't you have that much empathy for women, especially Black women who are not allowed to cry, who are not allowed to
you are allowed to cry.
Party. No, they're not, because if they were, they're the single mothers in our community. They're the majority of our mothers. So
wait. You're saying crying and having a fatherless baby? Or is it what are you talking about? I said women are able to cry. Women use crying. Now you want to talk about a single mother. So you can spit out a fatherless baby, but you can't cry? What the hell are you talking about?
She don't have time to cry. She got to take care of that baby crying.
Well, that's her dumb ass for having a baby without no daddy.
I want to jump in. I get
welcome to manhood.
Both of y'all are saying, right? And I think that it's just that society has been more accepting of little girls crying and asking them what's wrong, as opposed to when little boys are crying, they are telling them that they are not allowed to cry. You're not supposed to cry because you are a boy. So they do grow up, right, learning how to have a certain tolerance for their emotions, and they don't cry as easy because they weren't allowed to as children. Whereas as little girls, if we're crying, everybody wants to baby us. How, you know, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, so I think it has a lot to do with that as well. Like, we have to treat the little girl, right, a little bit more, be a little bit more delicate and careful, and understand that she's emotional because she's a little girl. And as for the boy, let him suppress his emotions so that it can come out in anger, or maybe he doesn't need to cry as much. So I get what everybody's saying, but I think it's what we've been kind of groomed, you know, by society to think what is more acceptable, where little girls, women, and I will take accountability, right? We are taught that we can express ourselves, and when we cry, right, we do get the attention that we're looking for. It's not to say that we are more emotionally intelligent. We just know that that will get us a quicker response, as opposed to if we are yelling and screaming.
I know you want to go, Paris, but I want to ask y'all ladies, the last time y'all cried in front of a man, like when you cried to a man, can I know the response? Because, and what was it about? I want to know, because I'm not a crier, and I'm not over here crying, and I don't appreciate Mr. LetGo saying that women, that's all they do is cry, because we're up here working our ass off and holding down the Black community because our men are incarcerated and killing each other.
First of all, y'all not holding down no Black community. Y'all are making the community worse by, like you said, having fatherless babies when they grow up.
Who are we gonna have a baby with? Do you understand the purpose
with
of
your husband? There's this thing called marriage.
Let go. You just said you want to
don't have babies. You can't have a baby until you find a husband. Everybody say,
you don't want to be a husband. You want to be a hoe.
Ali, hold on. Ali, everybody right now, everybody say husband.
Everybody right now say husband.
There's this thing called husband that you actually get before you have a damn baby. Hell you talking about?
I'm sorry, Miss Paris. You wanted to talk.
You're holding down a community. How?
We are holding it down because you leave women with fathers.
You're not random babies by random dudes.
How are they random? They're humans. They have common sense just like you do. But go ahead, Miss Paris.
They don't have common sense. They had a baby with y'all.
We're gonna go to Paris, then Marcus, y'all. Then we piggyback.
I would say to answer Ali's question, the last man I cried in front of was actually Sweetie a few months ago. But aside from that, I think as far as the conversation that they were having, I think that they were actually having two different conversations. The women were talking about vulnerability, because crying is a form of vulnerability. And again, I think we need to stop associating a man's emotional response only to crying. Like it's almost as if we want to see them in a weaker state for some reason. Like I'm starting to hear this so much. Like I think a lot of women hard on for seeing men in a weaker state, because why are you so desperate and fainting for them to cry? Like, why do you need to see that? What does that do for you? Because you know how embarrassing crying feels. Like crying makes you feel very seen. And so for me to know that feeling, I don't necessarily want to put a man on the spot and force that out of him just so he can understand my communication style. I think men and women need to understand we communicate and express emotions differently. And as far as emotional men, he's very much so correct. Emotional men get outraged. That same rage that you're talking about that comes out with violent tendencies, that's an emotional man. And when you actually learn to suppress your emotions and move through life, that does show you have a form of control. There may be some form of trauma that comes with suppressing your emotions, but typically crying for people is a sense of overwhelmingness. Crying for people is a sense of fed up. Crying for people is typically frustration. It's not always because a person can't get their way, and it's not always because a person is trying to manipulate, although that does tend to happen. But I think it's very important that we stop utilizing crying as the only expressive vulnerability that we want to see out of men, when it's something so simple as being empathetic. If a man can tell you I'm sorry, that's him being expressive in his emotions. If a man can give you a hug, that's him being expressive in his emotions. If he can kiss you on your forehead, that's him being softer for a woman, being expressive in his emotions. But he doesn't have to shed tears in order to do that.